Who, oh who, will talk about all these 90s real-time strategy action game hybrids? Well, I guess we have to. And hey, I guess we'll make a list about it too. Please enjoy. Good old Herzog Zwei. Among a certain audience, its legend is innately understood. But for someone like me, who only knew of it from other people talking about it, it was just no, Dune 2 wasn't the first RTS, Herzog Zwei was the first RTS game. Although, technically, that might have been Herzog, or maybe even Carrier Command. Both of those games were released the previous year, who knows? Anyway, point is, it was only natural then, given my current obsession, action game RTS hybrids, that I would need to try it sooner or later. To start, I really wanted to play the original Herzog, but I could not get any of the emulators to work. It seems just different enough from its much better known sequel that I felt it was worthwhile to include in this journey. This is another game that you can play alone or against a human opponent, and it has a pretty neat meta structure where you must battle across various battlefields, and if you win, you advance to the next battlefield, and if you lose, you regress the previous battlefield. The idea of playing an entire campaign against a friend seemed neat, although it seems to me it would have gotten old fast, especially since finishing a game would mean one of the players would have to lose over and over again. I was also curious about the ability to deploy many units at a time at the start of the match, as well as the very strictly linear nature of the maps, which actually seemed kind of like a fun, streamlining aspect to me. As it stands, however, I'll have to keep it as an honorable mention until I can find a place and a way to play it. It's a real shame too, because, like I said, it has significant differences from Zwei, and it looks like a lot of fun to play. From what little I know about Herzog, its sequel, to me, is an interesting case. It completely ditches the linear meta structure as well as any narrative wrapping whatsoever. Sure, you can read about some dictatorship in the manual, and the back of the box alludes to some rebellion you're supposed to be leading, but this is a game of competition between equals on maps that you can choose from a list from the beginning without restriction. As someone who usually prefers single-player games and who, played this game by himself, I do think a single-player structure similar to its predecessor would have been welcome. However, I'm not necessarily convinced that this is a regression. What the lack of narrative does is give the game a focus. This is clearly meant to be a competitive two-player game. To me, the biggest evidences of this are how the menus look. They are very, very basic. It almost seems like a developer build of the game, like a not quite ready for retail version of the game. And also, the extreme focus on micromanagement. This was clearly meant to be a game with a very high skill ceiling, and was a game that seems to be meant to be played between friends over and over again. This is a game in which you build units that have limited fuel and therefore a limited movement range, and the only other transport infrastructure is you. You have to take the unit you control, pick up units, and airlift them to get the most out of them, usually. So that makes you the most powerful fighter on the battlefield and the cursor RTS game. So truly the mission statement of Herzog Zwei is mega micromanagement heavy RTS. Just micromanagement is the name of the game. There's no way around it. And this might be, of the ones I know of, the most micro heavy RTS ever made. It's hard to remember that this game came out in 1989. Audio-visually, this game is stellar for the time. You've been listening to the music, so you can already tell that this is among the best. It's up there anyway. And as far as graphics go, the sprites are colorful and easy to tell apart, and the environments look nice too. I can definitely see how this game caused a few waves when it came out, although apparently not as many as it could have, since it didn't sell very well and its notoriety grew seemingly long after it left store shelves. But it did review well, and I can definitely see why, because I also would review this game very well. How well exactly? Well, that's for you to see later when we do our tier list, which will come sometime in the future. Now, far be it from me to declare, as many have, Herzog Zwei the first ever real-time strategy game ever made, much less the first action real-time strategy hybrid ever made. Obviously, there was a predecessor called Herzog, which was very similar. I think it fits in there. Also, there was Carrier Command. We talked about this at the beginning. However, this, as a console game, is the most mainstream ready. All of its controls fit in the 3-button Genesis controller, but they are well suited to executing intricate strategies and fast action. Aside from that, the graphics are more than appealing and the soundtrack is wonderful. The one thing about this game, though, is that it is brutal. I played it for hours in preparation to talk about it here, and I never even got close to victory. However, for all the skill I lacked, I did not lack for enjoyment. This game is a blast to play, and I did feel myself grasp certain techniques that managed to stave off defeat for a little bit. I'm very bad at micromanagement heavy RTS games, but much like Company of Heroes or StarCraft, I really like this game. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to play this game against another human opponent, but one day I would love to try. That seems like a fantastic time. Well, Herzog Zwei has definitely earned its place on our tier list. I cannot wait to see where it ends up. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.